Before I call this meeting to order, I'd like to note that we have an interpretation services for this meeting. The interpreter this evening is Mr. Anguiano. Mr. Anguiano, would you mind raising your hand? And please ask him for a listening device if you would like interpretation services. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the City Council meeting of September 20th, 2022. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll and make an announcement about accessing the meeting?
In order to participate in the City Council meeting virtually, please register to speak using the link on the agenda under public comment or call 1-669-900-9128 and use webinar ID code number 842-3658-8896. To raise your hand to speak on a particular agenda item, please use the raise hand button in Zoom. If you are using a phone, please press *9 to unmute on your telephone keypad to raise your hand to speak. Press *6 to unmute your phone. When it is your time to speak, the microphone will be unmuted for the time allotted by the mayor and will be muted upon completion of your comments. Councilmember Cordero?
Here.
Councilmember Escobedo?
Here.
Councilmember Soto?
Here.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Here.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Here. City Attorney Mr. Watson, would you like to give the closed session report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. With respect to the case identified, Rodriguez versus City of Santa Maria, instructions were provided to trial counsel on that matter. No other report is to be made.
Thank you. First item this evening is a proclamation, and Councilmember Soto will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is my pleasure to present this week's proclamation for Active Aging Week. Whereas Active Aging Week is celebrated nationwide for all to appreciate the myriad of benefits of adopting a healthier lifestyle, and whereas the City of Santa Maria observes Active Aging Week to inspire wellness through educational activities to convey the care and support of Santa Maria's older residents, and whereas it is recognized that
Gina.
social well-being and community enrichment benefits the city's active aging population, and whereas the City of Santa Maria has committed to providing quality services to seniors, including leisure services, exercise classes, health screenings, and fitness testing. And whereas active adults who are physically and socially healthy contribute to the city as volunteers, mentors, and role models. And whereas for the past 12 years, the City of Santa Maria has acknowledged Active Aging Week in its continuous efforts to recognize that healthier decisions affect the quality of life. Now, therefore, Alice Patino, the mayor of the City of Santa Maria, hereby proclaims October 1st through October 9th, 2022, as Active Aging Week in the City of Santa Maria, representing all the dimensions of wellness with a focus on physical activity, life enrichment, social well-being, and community engagement for the senior population and future generations. And it is to be accepted by Bruce Rodriguez, President of the Senior Club.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
And City Council. As she said, I am the president of the Santa Maria Valley Senior Citizen Club based in Edward Muscle Senior Center. I want to thank you for your continued support to the Santa Maria Council has shown for the Active Aging Committee and the Active Aging Week. The Santa Maria Senior Citizens has been very actively involved with the committee for the past 12 years, and this year has provided a donation for the band playing the Active Aging Week Senior Dance being held this Sunday, October 9th, which will conclude a week of week activities. This is a free event for any senior who wants to attend. The week-long scheduled events has been included in your Active Aging welcome bag and is posted on the city website. There are many free events every day for the whole week of October October 1st through October 9th, many of which are co-sponsored by the partners involved with the Active Aging Committee. We are happy to be able to share the proclamation with our committee members, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Our next order of business is a presentation of the businesses of the month with Councilmember Escobedo. We'll be presenting the certificates along with Chamber CEO Glenn Morris.
Joey's.
Good morning, good evening, Good morning.
Well,
It's been one of those days. Good morning. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. We're pleased to be back with you again for another installment of our featured business recognition partnership that we have with the city, and we're really thrilled and honored to be able to do this on a regular basis. As you know, for the 2022 year, we have been bringing you two businesses each month, one a local manufacturer and the other a woman-owned business in our community. And again, tonight I'd like to share with you a little bit about our two recognized businesses. And we'll start with our manufacturer, and tonight we're recognizing Hans Deuce Blacksmith, which is one of the more unique businesses in this community. One of the things that I love about this opportunity is the chance to kind of highlight some businesses that I think many folks in our community just don't know exist, because they don't necessarily sell their product in the downtown or in the mall, right? But there are some businesses in this community that really do some unique and creative kinds of things that I think are really cool. And Hans and what he does in his business is certainly one of those. Hans Deuce Blacksmith produces lighting fixtures for the hospitality industry, theme parks, and public and private developments, as well as high-end resolution. These are really unique fixtures if you've ever had a chance to see them. The business was started down the road a little bit in 1982, and in 2016 they relocated here to Santa Maria. They currently have 3 employees as part of the business. Hans, in addition to running the business here, has been a member of the Allen Hancock College Welding Department Advisory Board for the past couple of decades, and has taught blacksmithing and ornamental iron handling at the college for the past 20 years. He's a member of a number of different committees in the community, including as part of the Chamber's Business and Government Roundtable. One of the other kind of unique things, and this is something new that they're doing, Hans and his folks are starting what they're calling Gallery at the Forge. So an opportunity to go in and view the work that they do and samples of those really very artistic pieces of lighting that they have created. So another unique kind of visitor and community asset in our community to show off the creative artistic work of some of our fellow citizens. So Mayor and members of the council, it's my pleasure to introduce Hans Deuce.
Mayor, council members, it's my pleasure to be here. And my wife, Carla, is here with me. She's been my partner in crime for a lot of years. I would have liked to have brought an anvil in here and shown you a few things, but a coyote stopped by and saw a road runner, so he borrowed the anvil. So you're going to have to come over to the shop. And it would probably be better to do to do a demonstration there than, I don't think the carpet would like it. So anyway, thank you for recognizing us. Glenn, you did a great promotion. You need a job, come see me.
And Mr. Deuce used to serve on the Solvang City Council, right?
9 years.
9 years.
And you know, You can all come over at once. I can keep you separated so we don't have a Brown Act violation.
That wouldn't be any fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Deuce.
It would be interesting to see.
If you want to see a little bit more of the process and understand a little bit more what they do, one of the other partnerships we have is with a program with the Santa Maria Times, where we do some video interviews of local businesses, and Hans was one of the businesses that we featured so far, and those are available on our website and on the Santa Maria Times' website as well. So our second business this evening is Gina's Piece of Cake. And this is obviously our women-owned business for the month. Gina's Piece of Cake is a small family-owned bakery that provides, as most of us already know, a large array of really delicious, freshly baked goods for your family and for any event. She says she can handle events of any size. You just give her a little notice, right? The business has been here in Santa Maria for 18 years. And really got started when her father sold his bakery out in Lompoc. So you can see how this is a multi-generational family legacy here. They currently have 15 employees right across the street here in the Santa Maria Mall. And one of the things that I thought was creative is, you'll remember during the pandemic, the mall for a period of time was forced to close. Fortunately, Gina's stall there has an outside exit, and so they were able to continue to operate, doing drive-up pickup, and they offered unique daily specials and really promoted that on social media. And says their customers loved that, kind of what are you doing today, kind of an approach, and the fact that they could just pull up to the curb and her team would come out and deliver the goodies, right? And, those of us that were stuck at home during that time needed some goodies, right? So it was certainly, I would call it essential service. The company is an avid supporter of many organizations. If you attend any of the fundraisers in town, you'll know that one of the things we love to do in Santa Maria is spend a lot of money on desserts as part of those auctions, and many of those desserts are donated by Gina and her team to support the nonprofits that are raising funds in our community. I also thought it was interesting, she says they have multiple partnerships with organizations like the Salvation Army and Catholic Charities and others to pick up the day-old goods and be able to use those in their feeding services as well. So Mayor, members of the council, it's my honor to introduce you to Gina Martin.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. I do want to say something, though, because Gina made the most beautiful wedding cake for my daughter, and she just worked extremely well. We got to taste a lot of different cakes, and I love your dad, and he's just been such an anchor and wonderful man, and thank you for just providing so much joy to families, Gina. Really appreciate it.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Cordero wants.
I also want to say some things. I too know her dad, and we attended a couple of college classes together. And I saw the first shop go in across the street, and then the new one. And doing what I do, we find ourselves involved with a lot of nonprofits. And whenever something comes up, then certainly somebody raises their hand and says, well, I'll contact Gina's Piece of Cake and see just what'll happen. So you support so many things. And I was gonna jokingly complain that how dare you come here without some sort of, and then I looked over and saw Kevin had that pink box in his hand. So you stole my thunder, but your footprint in the community, particularly in the nonprofit community, is huge, and we thank you.
We'll have to ask the attorney, city attorney, if it's acceptable for Mr. Escudero.
I'll taste it.
You want to set them on your table first, just to make sure?
I'll take it.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you very much. Next, we have the public comment period. Madam Clerk, could you please read the criteria for the public comment portion of the agenda?
This time is reserved to accept comments from the public on consent agenda items, closed session items, or matters not otherwise scheduled on the printed agenda this evening. Unless otherwise directed by the mayor, speakers will have 3 minutes to comment. Direction to staff may be given. However, state law does not allow action to be taken on matters not on the printed agenda. Once the public comment period commences, no other speakers will be allowed to submit a request to speak form. Madam Mayor, before we go to the public comment, staff received one written communication from Matt Chirkop regarding the Vernon Property Group and the development at Main and Broadway involving the Firefighter Memorial Site. He proposed that a Firefighter Oversight Committee be formed to work with the city and the developer to ensure concerns about the memorial site are adequately addressed. And we have 8 requests to speak.
Thank you. Daniel Dearborn, followed by Liberty Dearborn, followed by Heaven Dearborn, followed by Mark Zarate. Good evening, Mr. Dearborn.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Dearborn, and I'd like to take a moment to thank the city for the Parks and Recreation Department and the various youth sports programs provided, and we've really enjoyed them throughout the years. Thank you very much.
Now, does that young man want to say anything?
No.
No. Okay. Liberty Dearborn, followed by Heaven Dearborn.
Hi, my name's Liberty, and thank you for listening tonight. I just want to thank you for our library. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. Heaven Dearborn.
Hello, my name is Heaven. Today I want to talk to you about me. I like horses. I want to be a cowgirl when I grow up. Thank you for the Santa Maria Rodeo. I hope to go when I grow up. Oh, and thank you for the library with horse books in it. Thank you for your time. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Mark Zarate, followed by Gary Hall. Cute.
Hello, Council, Mayor. I just wanted to, let's see where I'm at here. My section in this is 3U, about a no stopping zone in our area where we have a business. Just wanted to give our insight on all of these other businesses that are on this list, Q through U, having an issue with a lot of businesses using the street as their business. RVs parking up and down the road, just cars in general parking there, just interfering with access to get in and out of all of the businesses in the area. And I was hoping that this no stopping zone will go through tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Gary Hall, followed by Mary Harrison, followed by Esther Jensen.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I should have thought to bring my grandchildren to these meetings a long time ago. And I'm going to see what I can do. My name is Gary Hall. I'm a resident of Rancho Buena Vista Mobile Estates at 2135 North Railroad Avenue here in Santa Maria. I represent the North Santa Barbara County Mobile Homeowners Team, or NSBT. As you know, on June 7th this year, 15 weeks ago, this council approved the following motion. And I quote, "Following council discussion and public input on motion, direction was given to staff to work with community members and park owners to examine enhancing the model lease agreement to see if there was room for improvement and to look at alternatives." Thank you again, Council Members Soto, Escobedo, and Cordero for passing this motion. Our first hybrid meeting is scheduled for this Thursday, September 22nd. Just last Friday, I did receive a meeting agenda, and the mobile home residents of Santa Maria remain anxious to get productive dialogue with both the city and park owner representatives underway. I want to thank city staff for arranging the meeting. I also want to thank the city and council for tonight's Active Aging Week proclamation. As a senior living here in Santa Maria, it's reassuring to me to hear the city cares about all the dimensions of wellness of the city's seniors. I am particularly drawn to the introductory statement, and I quote, "Whereas it is recognized that social well-being and community enrichment benefits the city's active aging population." I would like to remind the council a large part of social well-being is directly derived from financial stability. Santa Maria's senior mobile home resident population does not have financial stability under the current model lease program, but I know that can be fixed. I also know fair, beneficial, mandatory, and enforceable mobile home rent stabilization in Santa Maria is achievable if willing and open-minded participants look for positive solutions. It'll be a challenge, but I look forward to the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Harrison, followed by Esther Jensen, followed by Herbert Bolton.
My name is Mary Harrison. I live at Rancho Buena Vista. When it comes to affordable housing, if you look under what is available in Santa Maria for a studio one-bedroom, it ranges between $1,650 a month to $2,600 a month. This is newer stuff, but it reflects, are we building affordable housing? Now, where I live it's beautiful. I recently had the Catholic Daughters from Fresno to Santa Barbara for a meeting there. They loved it. They were asking me all kinds of questions. I would not be surprised if they seriously look at it. But when it comes to this homelessness thing, we should not be pushing people out. In my park, there are people this year with cancers who have reached paying their maximum deductible on insurance. There are 2 people I know of who are legally blind. Now, they can see light and dark, and they can still live where we are. There is a new family I just met, and the 4 children, adult children, have brought the elderly parents over from Merle Gardens because I don't know if they're seeing the money dwindle down, but this is affordable, but you're making it by catering to owners rather than residents of Santa Maria and giving large increases. Now, the shopping carts at Vaughn's, it used to be a row of them in front of the store. Now you go in the store and blocking the exit are 4 or 5 carts, and you pick from one of those carts. If you go over to Good Samaritan, which Catholic Daughters does a dinner once a month, as does the Rotary after us, the dining hall is no longer for the dining, but you'll see some of those Vons shopping carts with their possessions, and you'll see a little mini mountain of sleeping bags. The last point I want to make, the picnic in the park for feeding the children their school lunches in the summertime. One time this summer, I saved this because it was peanut butter and jelly. This is ketchup, but it was what the peanut butter was in. And the jelly was one of those things they put on top of tables in restaurants. They're not living high on the hog. Let's keep things affordable.
Thank you. Esther Jensen, followed by Herbert Bolton.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm Esther Jensen from La Maria Mobile Home Park, and I also represent the North Santa Barbara County Mobile Home Team. Things aren't going any better than they were when we first started this project. Who knew the prices of food and gas, etc., would be where they are now? When is the city going to get serious about the plight of our senior citizens and low-income workers living in mobile homes here in Santa Maria? Unfortunately, our park was not included in the talks of the model lease. I'm happy others have realized our plight and have stepped up to offer their support. We would hope that you could do likewise. I just got my notice for this next year. The CPI has gone to 7.7%, which means my rent will increase another $62.43 a month. Water, garbage, and taxes are also up another $4.31. There's got to be some common ground somewhere. For many, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Some of my friends have talked about moving elsewhere, but that takes money too. Please take time to reflect on all that you've heard from us in the last 3-4 years, and let's sit down and solve the problem. It isn't going to go away on its own. Thank you.
Thank you. Herbert Bolton.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Councilman. I am Herbert Bolton. I am a retired City of Santa Maria fireman. And fireman, it was when I was working, but it is a firefighter now. Okay. I am the only surviving firefighter that was on the wall of the Bradley Hotel when Alvin Newton died. I would like to address the resolution that was passed last meeting. This resolution will impact the historical monument site 162073, located at South Broadway and at the corner of South Broadway and Main Street. The status of this the site give me a second.
That's fine. Take your time.
This site is recognized by the Santa Maria Historical Society as number 162079 and is titled in memory of William Alvin Newton. Firefighter Newton was the Santa Maria firefighter who died at that spot while fighting the Bradley Hotel fire. As suggested by members of the council, the developer should contact the fire chief, firefighters, active and retired, about the destruction of the landmark. As a resident of the city, I am appalled by the lack of respect that this council has for the women and men who serve, sometimes giving their lives for all the people of Santa Maria. This memorial should not be only for Alvin Newton, but Joe Alexander and all the firefighters of Santa Maria, past, active, and future. I am disgusted by the plans to destroy this landmark. Thank you.
Thank you. And I certainly hope that this is also heard by our community development. And I know Mr. Cordero brought this up at the meeting. And so those of us who have some history and know the value of what has happened there, and I think and so, Mr. Bolton, I thank you so much for coming this evening. I thank you so much.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Cordero.
Sir, we don't normally comment on these things because they're a public comment, but I will share with you that nothing's been approved. All that we approved was that they could continue to look into it. There is no building approval. There's nothing like that. And everyone here wants to protect the importance of that monument. No project has been approved. Only looking into the project has been approved. Okay?
I agree with you completely, and I thank you for your comment. But what happened last meeting did not give, to my opinion, did not give enough direction to the contractor. The site, right now it's called site, and it does not give parameters of what that site is. There is a firefighters and another monument on what is now a designated site. But
we will look into those things.
Yeah.
We will. The project is not over with, and I said at the last meeting, sir, that I would vote no immediately if it was not something that we could go along with the firefighters. And the city attorney over here is getting ready to bonk me on the head because we're talking without an agenda item. But we will be doing more, okay? Trust us.
Yeah.
Trust us, please.
Trust me. Okay.
Okay.
But thank you very much, Mr. Bolton.
Yes.
Appreciate your words.
Thank you.
And I would take any questions and be.
Oh, they would have to be off the dais,
Yeah.
sir. They
We
can't
will
be.
do everything I can.
We will be
to
in
make this
contact
happen.
with you. Thank you, for sure. So that concludes the public comment portion. Before we move on, Mr. Stillwell, did you wish to make any comments?
Nothing in addition really to what was said, is that we have a starting point based on last week, and we'll commence discussions.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 3?
Routine items are presented for City Council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. The consent calendar is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on the request of council members. Madam Mayor, council members, before entertaining a motion on the consent calendar, staff has requested that item 3G be pulled from the agenda to be considered at a future meeting. Therefore, the motion should exclude item 3G, which is the surplus property Cook Street.
Okay, so we're pulling 3G. Okay. And does anyone want anything else pulled from here?
I have nothing, Madam Mayor.
Nope.
If not, Madam Mayor, I'd like to go
Okay.
ahead and make a motion
Okay.
that we approve the consent calendar with and to exclude item 3G that will be heard at a different time,
Okay.
and approve the rest of the.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I wanted to make a comment on 3M, because tonight we're adopting a resolution authorizing 2 energy efficiency project work orders. And this is for lights on the Adam Basin and Crossroads. So we approved this through the budget, but now it just comes to us. But I thought the public would want to know it's coming to us on the consent calendar. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Waterfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
Councilmember Soto.
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye. Okay. So I am going to use my discretion and pull item number 5 ahead of 4. And Madam Clerk, can you please read item number 5?
Item number 5 is the City Council will consider a proposed street name change from Hickok Drive to Dan Blau Drive.
And the staff report will be made by Principal Civil Engineer, Mr. Baez.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members. The request before you this evening is for a street name change in honor of one of our own, Santa Maria resident, Mr. Daniel Dean Blau. Most of us who worked with him knew him as Dan. Mr. Blau was a highly respected man of many talents. He was a contractor, Santa Barbara County Planning Commissioner, and a land developer. The Betteravia Plaza subdivision was the last project Dan Blau had approved through the Planning Commission and City Council, and it is currently under construction. City staff was contacted by the landowner, Mr. Steve Zimmerman, requesting the honorary street name change. The police, fire, and community development departments are supportive of the street name change. The proposed change would not affect any existing addresses, but would be implemented in future property addressing. The request to change the street name was also presented to the city's traffic committee for consideration. After review, the traffic committee recommended the street name change be presented to the city council for consideration. City council approval is required to facilitate the request for a street name change. If approved, an amendment to the recorded final map will be required in the form of a certificate of correction. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council adopt a resolution implementing a street name change in the Betteravia Plaza subdivision, tract 6008, from Hickok Drive to Dan Blau Drive. This concludes staff's presentation, but would like to add that Ms. Peggy Blau and John Will are in attendance to speak in support of the request before council this evening.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Baez? No. Okay, so John, Peggy, who wants to go first? Good evening, Mr. Will.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, and everybody here with the city. Important day for Peggy and a lot of members in this community to hear this resolution. We want to thank Mr. Steve Zimmerman for allowing us to move forward with this, and I'd like to thank the Public Works Department for their help in making this possible. Just going to give you a little history. In the 1800s, when the city of Santa Maria was developing, it was building new streets and naming them after community leaders. Those streets are still around today: Cook Street, Fessler Street, Tunnel Street. Community members way back in the 1800s. They were recognized for what they did for the city. Here we are tonight, 100 years later, recognizing a man with a name change for a street He's a leader in the community. He'd help the city continue to grow and develop, and I want to thank the City Council, the Public Works Department, and the community.
Good evening, Mrs. Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. I had a little speech, but I think I'd rather just talk from the heart. This would have meant the world to Dan, and he would have been emotional too, I guarantee it. Even though he could be intimidating, he was a very caring and a very giving man. And he was very devoted to the city of Santa Maria. And he also started with Steve Zimmerman as a client, and he became a friend. And that was pretty typical of Dan. He was all about a win-win for everyone. And he always kept the city in his heart. And when he was trying to get a zone change or whatever, he was always thinking about the impact that it would have on the city and what it might cost them, or how we could do it a better way so it didn't cost him so much. So I'm very honored. I'm eternally grateful to Steve Zimmerman and the city of Santa Maria. I also want to thank you for his Robert F. Crooken Award. He would have loved that. And I want to thank you. And I have a Nat Fast painting that always hung in Dan's office, and I'd like to give it to the city of Santa Maria. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, how beautiful.
Well, this is a good night. We've got cookies and pictures. Madam Mayor, I would like to make the motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and now we can have discussion.
You know, I would like to say something. Dan was incredible, Peggy. And you know, when you look back on your life and you see the people that taught you, influenced you, and said, you can do whatever you want to do, that was Dan with me. I've always been very blessed with my positions in Santa Maria. And I always had a wealth of incredible people that taught me and nurtured me. And I've always thought of Dan as being one of the best universities to go to in the world because he had a wealth of knowledge and he shared it with you because he wanted to make you more knowledgeable so that you could do better and go wherever you wanted to go in life. And yes, he was very intimidating. After I got over that, he was very kind. He was just the most wonderful man. And sitting up here is one of the reasons why I'm here, is because of Dan. He taught me so much about everything. And I want to thank you for being such a wonderful wife and allowing him to be shared with everybody. Because you let him do what he wanted to do, Peggy, and you've been the incredible wife and the loving wife. And I want to thank you for letting Dan be Dan.
Santa Maria is more of a beautiful city because of Dan. And when you've worked with different developers over the years and you have people talking to you and encouraging you to do different things, and then you have people lying to you about what they're going to do here in Santa Maria. And Dan was not like that. He loved Santa Maria. Anything he did was in the best interest of Santa Maria. And I was very proud to say he was a friend. And thank you, Peggy. Yes, Mr. Escobedo.
Hello, Peggy. I would like to add, I had the opportunity of having a lot of conversations with Dan, and yeah, I do agree. He's very knowledgeable. He knew, and it was a passion for him what he did, and I always, if I have a questions or any concerns about something, I always call him. Even sometimes we agree, sometimes we didn't, but he was really straightforward. And that I always appreciate of people. And because when they look into your eyes and they're able to tell you what they think without this, like some words that try to put some makeup on it, that is something that I appreciate of a person. So rest in peace, and yeah, and I will definitely support this.
Any other comments? Okay.
I don't have anything, Mayor.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Soto? Aye. Councilmember Escobedo?
Aye.
And Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider the Block Grants Advisory Committee's recommendations for the 2023-24 Community Development Block Grant Funding Priorities.
Staff report is to be made by Community Programs Manager, Ms. Rojo.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. We come before you tonight asking that the City Council adopts a resolution accepting the Block Grants Advisory Committee's recommendation for fiscal year 23-24 Community Development Block Grant Funding Priorities. On an annual basis, the Block Grants Advisory Committee reviews the priorities outlined in the city's 5-year consolidated plan and decides whether the priorities should be modified based on the unmet needs of the community. These priorities are one of the tools used by the committee and the City Council to determine what activities and projects should receive funding to maximize the impact CDBG funds have on city residents. As part of the CDBG funding process, staff conducted a community needs workshop on August 8th. During this online discussion, several service providers spoke before the committee expressing their thoughts on the unmet needs. Some of those needs are on your screen. They include abuse, trauma victim services, food insecurity, homeless services, mental health services, and youth services. The needs expressed at this meeting are all reflected in the existing CDBG funding priorities, and therefore no changes to the verbiage are recommended. On your screen, you'll see 2 of the 4 priorities, and then here are the other 2 priorities. So the first 2 include prevent homelessness, address critical need, and assist at-risk youth, elderly, and underserved populations. The second priority, expand educational and development opportunities. The third, provide affordable housing, and the fourth, revitalize existing neighborhoods. As a reminder, the numbers next to the priorities are simply there as a reference and not to rank them. Also, priorities 1 and 2 will only be considered for public services funding. This will narrow down the applicants who seek CDBG public service funding and also better reflect the community's needs. Capital funding will consider all 4 priorities. So what's next after adopting tonight's resolution? Tomorrow, capital project proposals are due. Those proposals will be brought back to the City Council next month on October 18th for consideration and prioritization. Then on Thursday, October 20th, all potential applicants will take part in a mandatory pre-application workshop. And then the deadline to apply for both public service and capital projects are Wednesday. The deadline is Wednesday, December 7th. This concludes my report. I am happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions of Ms. Rojo? No. Oh, Mr. Escobedo.
Hello.
Hi.
I was going to tell you Rossi. Oh, I always call you Rossi.
Yeah.
Sometimes Ms. Rojo. I've been getting to know you for a while, so.
Yeah.
Sorry if I call you Rossi. So, how many applications have we received so far?
We have not received any applications yet. Usually, the NOFA, the Notice of Funding Availability, just was released about 2 weeks ago, and we'll see how many proposals for capital projects we get. I know we have at least one proposal for capital, but I haven't checked Zoom grants, which is the system that we use. But we'll find out. Usually they all come in the day of. Yeah.
Thank you.
So basically, the feds have not changed their priorities, and so you're asking about ours?
Yes, so every
Okay.
year we check our local priorities, and our local priorities have remained about the same.
How many people showed up at was it the August 8th meeting? Yeah.
We had a smaller turnout than in previous years. We probably, maybe half a dozen people from outside the city, outside city staff. So, yeah, usually we have a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. No questions from the council? Madam Clerk, are there anyone, what do you call it, online?
Anyone requesting to
Any
speak?
requests to speak online? Yeah.
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Oh, okay. So I'll open this up public hearing, so we have no requests to speak, no written correspondence? Okay. Then I'll close the public hearing and bring this item back to the council for any further discussion and/or a motion. And do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to conduct the public hearing, to receive comments on the priorities for fiscal year 2023-2024 funding, and adopt a resolution approving the Community Development Block Grant CDBG priorities for the 2023-2024 fiscal year funding process.
I'll second.
And a second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Soto?
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield has stepped out, and Madam Mayor.
Aye. Our next item is another public hearing. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider a recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve a plan development permit amendment and conditional use permit to revise the exterior architecture and establish a veterinary clinic in a proposed 7,000 square foot mixed-use building on a 0.17 acre site in a planned development medium-density residential district, and include conditions allowing the adjacent landowner to have signage.
Thank you. Staff report is to be made by Community Development Director, Mr. Ng.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This is an appeal for Caring Hands Office Building and Pet Clinic located at 1995 South Miller Street. The applicant, Dr. Farshid, is requesting that the City Council grant an appeal to delete condition number 4 of the PD and CUP permits for Caring Hands Office Building and Vet Clinic. Condition number 4 requires relocation of an existing monument sign advertising an adjacent medical business on the same site visible from Miller Street. I have some slides showing the location and providing background information. Here's the project location on the corner of Miller and Daniel. This is part of the Celebrations project. We have 2 images here showing the progress of the Celebrations project. It is mostly residential homes, but on the corner of Daniel and Miller is a mixed-use project for commercial uses. And this is the property, street view. So there's an existing mixed-use building that you can see to the west of the vacant site. There's the projects that we're talking about is for this vacant site, and you can kind of see the sign that's on the property here at the corner. Another aerial photo of the project site, the red line indicating where the signage is located. Here's a site plan of the approved project, and it is an office building that will accommodate a vet clinic, and there's also a residential use attached to that. These are architectural drawings for the proposed office building. Some background regarding this appeal. The monument sign was constructed prior to the applicant's purchase of the property and was allowed to be installed in its current location by the previous property owner. The prior property owner did not formalize this arrangement with a signage easement or other recorded document. This project was reviewed at the June 15 Planning Commission hearing, and the commission voted to include condition number 4, which, quote, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the monument sign located on lot 54 of the celebration tract shall be relocated to a location that is visible from Miller Street. Dr. Desai, who represents the property to the west, supports the condition. The city received the appeal request, and in the request, the appellant states that there is no easement to benefit 355 Daniel Drive, which is the property to the west, that it is vague, ambiguous, and an unenforceable condition of approval for the benefit of an adjacent property, that there is no privity or contract that requires the applicant to allow the sign to be placed on the property because there is no contract with any prior owners that run with the land and binds successors. So there is a sign program that governs the celebration project, and it envisions signage to be placed in the common areas. But again, when the lot was created, there were no reservation or easements that were created. And so by not requiring common signage areas or easements on the tentative map, the city does not have the legal basis to require the applicant to establish signage for another business on the applicant's private property or elsewhere as a condition to build the proposed project. As such, staff recommends that the appeal be granted and that the project be approved without the inclusion of condition number 4 regarding signage. This is staff's recommendation that the City Council adopt a resolution granting the appeal to delete condition number 4 regarding signage and uphold the Planning Commission's approval of the plan development permit and conditional use permit for Caring Hands Office and Veterinary Clinic at 1995 South Miller Street. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, Ms. Sutter, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to disclose that I am I receive services at Caring Hands Pet Clinic. Well, I don't. My pets do.
It was nice you clarified that. Okay. Any questions of Mr. Ng? Okay. Is the appellant here? Would they like to make any comment? Good evening, Mr. Cinco.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, staff. It's a pleasure to be here representing the applicant. We call Dr. Farshid because his last name is difficult for us to say, so I noticed that Chun also called him Dr. Farshid. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Philip Cinco. I'm an attorney, and I'm here representing the applicant, the appellant, and with him is Tom Martinez, the project architect, who's known to most of you as well. I was retained by the appellant after the written appeal was filed. I did not prepare it, but I do agree with its content, and because it does a good job of laying out the relevant facts and the legal arguments in support of my client's appeal, I don't intend to duplicate what was already said so well. However, I do want to supplement it with some additional discussion about an important United States Supreme Court case that is relevant to your deliberations. The case, which the city attorney is well aware of, and can probably guess, is the Nolan versus California Coastal Commission case. That case arose from a permit application filed by James and Marilyn Nolan to rebuild a home on their beachfront property, I believe in Ventura. The Coastal Commission had imposed a condition of approval on their permit requiring the Nolans to grant the public an easement across the property. The case is relevant because the Planning Commission did something similar here by requiring my client to essentially grant was functionally equivalent to an easement on his property in favor of a neighboring property owner. In that Nolan case, the Supreme Court asked or noted that had California simply required the Nolans to make an easement across their beachfront available to the public on a permanent basis, rather than conditioning the permit to rebuild their house on his agreement, on their agreement to do so. We have no doubt there would have been a taking. Similarly here, if the city had, I don't know, passed a law or had required my client to simply maintain a sign on his property for the benefit of Dr. Desai without a condition of approval that he had to agree to, and in my opinion, that would also constitute a taking. The Nolan case continues. We have previously held that as to the property reserved by its owner for private use, the right to exclude others is one of the most essential sticks in the bundle of rights that are commonly characterized as property, and where government action results in a permanent physical occupation of the property by the government itself or by others. Our cases uniformly have found a taking to the extent of the occupancy, without regard to whether the action achieves an important public benefit or has only minimal economic impact on the owner. In that case, the court found there was a permanent occupancy, even though no one had to occupy it permanently, because any member could be on the site at the time. Here, there is actually a permanent occupancy in the form of a monument sign that my client does not want on his property. He has different ideas about what kind of signage should go on the property. So the question in the Nolan case was, does the fact that it was required as a condition of approval change the analysis? And the court acknowledged that it does make a difference, because a condition of approval is not a taking if it, quote, substantially advances legitimate state interests. Now, without going into further analysis in the court's opinion, the court held there had to be an essential nexus between a condition of approval and the public interest the condition is intended to serve. And furthermore, the public interest must be substantially advanced by the condition, otherwise there is a taking. Here, Planning Commission condition does not advance a public interest. It only advances a private interest of Dr. Desai, and maybe perhaps some new patients that would find his medical office a little bit easier to find, but that still is primarily to the benefit of Dr. Desai. And requiring my client to maintain a sign for the benefit of the adjacent property owner does not substantially advance a public interest. Therefore, the condition, in my opinion, as it stands, is an unconstitutional taking of property without compensation. And for the reasons stated in the appeal and for what I just said, you should grant the appeal and delete condition number 4. And in closing, I just want to make 2 other points. Sorry, let's just make that one other point. I understand that the Planning Commission had some sympathy for Dr. Desai's predicament, and I imagine that some of you, or all of you, also have some sympathy for his unfortunate situation. But I would point out that as unfair as that may seem, it would be even more unfair to my client to require him to maintain the sign, because there is no legal agreement, no conditions of approval, no covenants, no binding agreements between Dr. Desai and the prior owner. And yet, when my client purchased the property, he had no reason to believe that there would be any right of a neighboring property owner to maintain a sign on his property. So basically, I feel that the city needs to refrain from inserting itself into this issue, which is, if there is any dispute or any right that Dr. Desai may have about his sign, it's a civil issue, as mentioned by Senior Planner Carol Zizenheine at the Planning Commission hearing. That concludes my statement. Our applicant, the appellant, and Mr. Martinez are here if you have any questions, or I'm available for any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Cordero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Cinco. What has this other party done that has contributed to this as a problem? Anything at all?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, you've got two factions here. You've got your client and the other doctor. Is there any culpability on the part of the other doctor on this?
Well, I'm not sure how relevant that is to the issues on the appeal, and I'm not that familiar with the background. I will say there was some conflict when this was discussed between them after the purchase. There was I do know that I have seen a letter from Dr. Desai that basically refused, after he was asked to remove the sign, he refused and basically said that the city had given him a right to maintain the sign on the property. And that did not sit well. So other than that, I don't really feel I should say any more. If you have any particular questions, you can ask Mr. Martinez or Dr. Fashid about the background. But again, I don't really think that's relevant to the issues that are out before you on the appeal.
Well, it's relative to fairness. I mean, these people have been living with this advertisement for like 11 years. Is that about right? And now we just want to take it away. And it's, as you said, sir, it's a civil matter.
Yes.
And we're being asked to insert the government into resolving a civil matter. And if we make a decision to overturn the appeal, we are potentially detrimental to one business. And if we make a decision to not overturn the appeal, it's detrimental to the other business, or could be. And so I feel like we're being forced into doing something where we shouldn't really be. I'm of the feeling that the less government in our private lives, the better off we are. And now we're being asked to come in and get involved in this dispute, which is really, as by your own language, is a civil matter. This matter should be taken up civilly, or a reconciliation to where they can live with this matter together. And so I'm not pleased with coming in and saying you're going to do this or you're not going to do this. This is not something we do. It's detrimental to good business. And no one in this room knows better than you necessarily that we should be a good business-friendly organization. And there's no way to make a decision on this issue without making an unfriendly business decision. And if you have a way, I'd sure like to hear it.
Oh, I know, I absolutely agree, Councilmember Cordero. The city shouldn't, the city council in particular should not be put in this position. I think the Planning Commission made an error trying to get involved in this situation. This is a matter that should be left to the parties to resolve one way or the other, whether by reconciliation, which has not been ruled out. It's just that it's not on the table right now because the city has posed a condition that's requiring it, so it's interfered with whatever potential negotiations may occur. The city's thrown a monkey wrench into those negotiations by its condition. So for that reason alone, I would argue it should be removed to allow the parties to resume whatever negotiation they can, or allow the courts to resolve that. That's what the courts are for, not the city council or the planning commission, in my opinion.
In my opinion also. I'll reserve anything else for right now and maybe come back after other council members have had an opportunity to speak.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I would like to know if there's anybody from the other side that would like to kind of like make some comments in regards to this. Oh, you can come to me.
Hi, everyone.
Please give your name.
Okay. It's Priyanshi Patel.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Priyanshi Patel.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to open up the hearing, and then I'll let you speak.
The mayor, the process we're following, it was to hear from the applicant or the appellant ask questions. Now you got me doing that. And then, so if there were questions, and which I don't know if there were additional questions, and if you want to go on to the
I'm going
applicant, then we can do
I'm going to
that.
open up the hearing now.
Yeah, we're open up the hearing, sure.
Okay, so I'll open up the hearing, and so that you can speak now. And please just give your name.
It's Priyanshi
Okay,
Patel.
go ahead, you may speak.
I just have a letter from Dr. Desai that I would like to read it out loud. Dear City Council, I'm Dr. Kamlesh Desai, family practitioner here in Santa Maria area since 2003. In 2011, I purchased my current office building. Before purchasing the building, I did due diligence and made sure that there would be a directional signage in the Celebration subdivision project, as my building was located one lot away from the main thoroughfare, Miller Avenue. I was shown the Santa Maria City-approved Celebration sign program. Following the program rules, I got a sign permit approved by Santa Maria City and placed my sign on the corner of Miller Avenue and Daniel Drive. The sign was inspected and approved after placement. In 2021, the corner lot was sold. The new owner told me to remove the sign from his land. I told him it was placed legally and would be open to relocating if necessary, wherever it would be seen and approved by the city. The new owner keeps following his mantra of the sign being on his land. He either did not do his due diligence and read the sign program for Celebration project, or he doesn't agree with it. Please take this into consideration, and if possible, give me a permanent easement for directional signage to be located on that corner. I'm sorry I couldn't attend in person as I'm traveling, and also it is much more difficult as I'm disabled with Parkinson. Regards, Kamlesh Desai.
Thank you. And then I have Maureen. Thank you.
Hello. So we actually need that sign to allow our patients to be able to find our office. He has been willing to adjust where the sign is so our patients are able to still find us. But it sounds like he wants to remove our sign in total, so then our patients would not be able to find us or end up at his office instead of our office. So we're just asking the court to allow us to have a sign to bring our patients to us so we can see them.
Thank you. Okay, I will close the public hearing. Do we have anything online?
No,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to mention that we also received written communication,
Okay.
which is the one that was read
Okay.
by Dr. Desai.
Okay, so I'll close the public hearing and bring this back to the council first
Madam Mayor,
for consideration.
if I may.
Mr. Watson.
It may be appropriate for the appellant to provide rebuttal if they feel it's appropriate prior to you closing the public hearing.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I would, the people that just spoke illustrated the problem. They're looking for the city to grant an easement or some kind of right and entitlement to place a sign on someone else's property. I don't think the city has the power to do that. Now, it's perhaps unfortunate that there was a sign program and that the prior owner didn't finalize or didn't memorialize or didn't establish with Mr. Desai. But that is not the fault of my client, who purchased the property without any reasonable belief that Dr. Desai would be able to keep that sign on the property. The title report doesn't show any easements, there's no conditions of approval, no covenants, no binding agreements. So I would just say that their comments are illustrating the problem that the appeal is based on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ng, how long has the monument sign been there? Mr. Guerrero said 11 years. Is that about right?
Madam Mayor, I'll have to turn to my staff that's here that may have that information.
And so initially, this was a verbal agreement, if nothing else? If it wasn't written, it was a verbal agreement then? And that was Mr. Flatley, right?
Correct. Madam Mayor,
Yes.
members of the City Council, I'm Carol Zizan-Henny, Senior Planner of the Community Development Department.
Okay.
A letter was received by the Planning Division from Terrence Flatley, the owner at the time, in October 2011. At that time, there were provisions made. This was for Celebrations 1, which was intending this corner to be a residential condominium, so there was no need for signage at that corner. However, this project has gone through several phases, and so the project before you is the final iteration of that. But the sign has been on the property since 2011.
Since 2011?
Correct.
Okay.
I think that adds up to 11 years.
Yeah. I would agree with you, Mr. Cordero, that this is a civil matter. This is not something that we should be inserting ourselves into.
Can anybody tell me where the sign is located now, and probably it would be you, Tom, where the sign is located now, where does that fall in the building footprint, sir?
Tom Martinez, 2624 Air Park Drive. I'm the architect on the project. The sign is basically underneath the southeast corner of the building. When my client purchased the property, it was proposed under the Celebration 2 subdivision, and it was approved as a 7,000 square foot building. So we maximized that building square footage. We're not growing any more land, so we've got to fill up what we've got. So it really sits underneath the corner. It is obstructing our project. One thing that I would add is that Celebration, or Celebration 1, as Carol referred to it, is the project that set up the sign program that approved that sign. When Terry Flatley resubmitted Celebrations 2 to cut off those two commercial corners, he never carried over that sign program, so it's not the fault of my client that was dropped off. Terry Flatley wanted to see, I assume, Terry wanted to sell those commercial properties free and clear. So that sign program was completely dropped from Celebrations 2, and that's what brings us to the point where we're at now.
But it still remained there for the 11 years, basically.
I'm sorry?
The sign has still been there for 11 years.
Yes,
Okay.
because no one had ever purchased it or developed it. And again, my client doing his due diligence when he purchased it, there is no sign agreement, there is no sign program, there is no easement in the title report for any such sign.
I think I want to say that I agree with you that it's certainly not your client's fault that this is where we are, but it doesn't sound like it's the other person's fault either. So we've got two people that are not culpable for this problem, yet we're being asked to stifle one of those people, whichever way we rule.
But as city staff reported in their staff report, and as the city attorney commented during the Planning Commission hearing, there is no nexus for the Planning Commission or the City Council to get involved in that matter. So they should have denied it and let Dr. Desai file the appeal and pay these ridiculous, pay these ridiculous appeal fees of $6,500 for an item that there is no valid tie to it.
Ms. Soto?
So my understanding, and I agree with you, like this shouldn't be a matter that's coming before the city council, but this is where I feel that this is what city staff is telling us, as Mr. Martinez just mentioned, that the Planning Commission made a step got us into, not this mess, but got us into this place that we're in now by putting in place this condition. And so in order for us to be removed and have it be handled by the courts or have it be handled by the businesses themselves, we should be removing that condition.
Either that or deny the appeal, either way.
No, accept the appeal.
Yeah. No,
That's the only way the city
I know
can-
it's separate, but I mean, yeah. Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, I do agree. I mean, if that's, as I have been listening, this is something that the city shouldn't be, we shouldn't be getting involved. I think that even putting ourselves out of this can allow you guys to find a solution, but it's something that it's more, it gets more complicated when you get the government and the city council in this situation. And it was mentioned there's, I mean, personally, I wouldn't like somebody to put a sign in my property and say that it's, you know, you cannot touch it, but it's, you know, somebody else's property. So it's just, I think it's a discussion that has to be in upside in the core. So I would agree on taking this out from the taking the city out of this equation, and it would be approve the appeal. In this case.
What was the reasoning behind the planning commissions? What was what was the reasoning behind putting this condition?
Is it inappropriate, to add to that, is it inappropriate to ask a planning commission at this point, or?
Again, the record is the record, and what you have before you is the record and their decision. So their intentions are irrelevant. The vote was 4-0 in favor of the condition.
And that's
4-0 with one abstention.
Yeah.
And again, so if you want to get into deliberations, you should close the public hearing and then deliberate. There's, you know, I was at that planning commission. I was, as Mr. Martinez said, I did advise the commission that I did not believe that the condition was appropriate. But again, the appeal is here for your independent review and determination of what's the right thing to do. Again, I fully support staff's recommendation.
I know that.
For all the reasons
We
that
know
have been
that.
described.
We know that. But with Mr. Soto's question there, is it inappropriate to ask the planning commission?
Not inappropriate. It's absolutely, you can ask. It's just, it's anecdotal evidence.
There is a commissioner here.
There's several.
Two.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Cordero.
I don't like this.
I don't either.
I don't like it because it just seems wrong. It doesn't pass the infamous smell test for either party. Probably the most enlightening thing that was said during this whole meeting was Mr. Cinco saying, you know, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that something can be done. It's not off the table that there could be some reconciliation. That's what you said. Is that correct? So I find it very difficult to think and understand how two intellectually informed people cannot reach some sort of an agreement, some sort of something that will allow the public to be informed and not hurt either business. I think I've got to say this. I hope I don't get in trouble for this. I'll know if the city attorney stands up here real quick.
He's already shaking his head.
But selfishly speaking, and I think we all have the same selfish opinion, we want the business of this gentleman to be very profitable and the other business to be profitable. And we want both of these businesses to pay a tremendous amount of taxes to the city of Santa Maria. So I find it very distasteful to think that we would say something or do something that would be detrimental to a friendly business. having said that, and taking into what Mr. Phil Cinco said, which was very, very, very nicely put, eloquently put, I think we should postpone this and allow these two intelligent people, yeah, that's what I think, Tom, that they need to work together to do something, regardless of what is legal or illegal. I mean, the issue is also fairness. Somebody's been living with something for 11 years, and now they're just going to take it away. Whether you like it or not, a person feels a certain amount of ownership there, and there needs to be something done. Why can't people come together and work together? It's more of a Santa Maria way, you know. I mean, I don't, and I'm not pulling for one side or the other. I'm trying to not split the baby in half, if you will, and make it so that everybody profits. That's what I'm doing. And then it doesn't go into a courtroom. It's something that people, and if they can't get together to do that, then maybe some other people can get together for them and come up with some sort of an agreement. If they can't, and we get forced back into this very same position, we do, but they're going to be neighbors, for criminy sake. They're going to be neighbors. I mean, I think that they need to do something to work together. There should not be a winner and a loser here. They should both be winners.
Ms. Soto.
Hey, it's up to the mayor.
Ms. Soto.
Thank you. Just because something has been in place for 11 years doesn't make it right, and it
Doesn't make it wrong either.
It doesn't, but I'm just saying that it doesn't make it right, and it also, I don't think it's really fair to the person who purchased that property for that sign to still stay there. So that's one point. But my second question, I mean, going back to what we all do agree on, if the city upholds this condition, are there any repercussions that we could be facing? I know Mr. Cinco mentioned a Supreme Court case recently, and so I'm just wondering, also based on your recommendation, City Attorney, that you gave to the Planning Commission, are there any repercussions?
Litigation is always a potential. I'll just say that straight up. Whether or not it would be successful is a different situation, but I can't provide advice in an open session. We'd have to have a closed session on that issue.
Mr. Cordero, do you want to make a motion? I'd closed it already. Yeah. Yeah, I had closed it, and then...
I would like to make a motion that we postpone this until December or before, if we can get some sort of a agreement between this fine gentleman and the other person. That's what I would propose. You know, that's what I would say, and give these neighbors an opportunity to work this out themselves, and then we're out of it. We're done. We're finished. We don't make a decision that's going to be detrimental to either business, and we move forward from there. And hopefully they can come up with something. If they can't, then we haven't lost anything except some time. And I think that that we need to give these people an opportunity to work together, to be good neighbors. Because we're standing to make the decision to lose a business, and we don't want to do that either. So I just can't see taking something away from somebody that's had it for so long. That's my motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I'll second it for discussion purposes. Did you want?
I'm happy to discuss. I hear what you're saying, that we don't want to hurt either business, but I would make the point that by keeping the sign there, it's going to hurt the new business or not the new business, but the property owner who's wanting to do business there. I would also say that this condition was not in place previously. It was put in place by the Planning Commission, from what I'm hearing, to kind of appease the other side. And so if we are able to, I'd love to hear from a planning commissioner that's here today to kind of get a better understanding of their thought process.
Well, I think we have a definition of in place. It's been in place since 2011.
The sign was in place since 2011, but it doesn't have to continue to be there. And it sounds like that was a verbal agreement made by
That's what it sounds
the
like.
previous owner, and now that previous owner sold the property, at least that's my understanding, sold the property. And so it was the Planning Commission who now came in and told the new property owner, you have to keep the sign up.
So am I hearing you say that having both signs on the property would be detrimental? Is that
What I'm saying is that that was an agreement, a verbal agreement made by the previous property owner. That is no longer the property owner. And the new property owner is saying that they don't want that sign there. But yet the Planning Commission came in and made it a condition to keep the sign up. So basically overruling what the new property owner wants to do with their property. That's what I don't agree with. And I'm having a difficult time understanding as to why that condition is in place, and why as a city council we would uphold that if we are saying that we don't believe that government should have in place in small businesses, or in how businesses are ran, or how property owners get to manage their property.
If we postpone the decision, it's not being upheld, it's being postponed.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Escobedo?
I think that by postponing this, the decision, we basically it's going to be helpful for this to be resolved. I think if we as a city just, let them, as you mentioned, two businesses that will be neighbors, I'm pretty sure they're going to find a way to work it out and find a solution. I mean, I think it just makes it more complicated to add the city in these kind of issues. And it was a verbal agreement, not a legal agreement. So I think that at the moment, that agreement, verbal agreement, it's basically broken because one party is gone. So I think it just doesn't seem fair for the owner of the land to just, deal with it because somebody else said that it was okay, the previous owner. So just my thoughts.
And if I may, by us removing the condition doesn't mean that the sign needs to be removed. It can still be worked out by both entities. Right. It also doesn't mean that it has to be removed. It could mean that it could be removed. I mean, it really goes back to them and them deciding what they decide to do, whether they work together or not. I mean, by us removing that condition doesn't eliminate that possibility. On the contrary, I think it provides for more of an ample conversation rather than us being the ones having it for them.
I would disagree. It definitely would be removed because that's what we're discussing here tonight. So, because he doesn't want the sign there.
So are we saying that we're...
No, so he doesn't want the sign there. So that's why the Planning Commission came in and put those conditions.
So putting the condition that the sign needs to remain up.
There.
So we're here telling a property owner, you have to keep a sign up because we're telling you to promote another business.
Well, those are your words, those weren't mine.
No, but that's the condition that we're stating here. The condition doesn't mean that we have to remove this, that they have to remove the sign.
I believe what I said was that to postpone this decision and give the property owners an opportunity to work together and in their collaboration and reconciliation we're out of it, because they come up with a deal, that's something it's civil matter between them.
Can't they do that by going to court, by us removing the condition, by us leaving the condition in place? It mandates that it basically mandates that the sign still be up.
Well, they can do anything they want.
No, they can't.
If that's the case. But by postponing it, it leaves them both on the same playing field. Once it's removed, then I don't have to talk to you anymore, type of thing. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
The same can be said for the other party. The other party can say, no, I don't want to negotiate. No, I don't want to work with you because the condition is in place.
That's true, except that they still have to come back here. So the threat is still there.
So okay, I hear what you're saying about the postponing.
I'm not suggesting that we don't do it. I'm only saying that I believe in good faith that two intelligent people can come to some sort of agreement. Just what Councilperson Carlos Escobedo just said. Two people can come together and make a rational decision if they want to. If they don't want to, then we've got ugly neighborhood. And I think if they have that opportunity to do that, hopefully they will. And that would be what I would stress.
What happens if it's a split vote?
Well, then it's a moot point. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll? Yes, the motion to postpone.
Can you give a date specific? I think that'd be appropriate. Postpone with date specific.
Yeah, December, the second meeting in December? What is that? Is it?
The second meeting in December is the induction of the new officers. for
How about the
election.
second meeting in November?
Okay, second meeting in November.
Friendly amendment.
They'll either do it or they won't.
Is that possible? Second week in November?
November 15th or December 6th?
15th. I would say the 15th.
Yeah,
Madam.
sooner the better.
Is that the amendment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second.
Madam Mayor, I'd really like to be heard on this before the motion's voted on.
I've closed it already, Mr. Senko.
It's your mayor's discretion.
Okay, I've already closed this. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready?
Call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo.
No.
Councilmember Soto.
No.
Okay.
We have a conundrum.
We're looking towards you all. What do we do? Well, my motion would be to grant the appeal as recommended by staff.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and second to grant the appeal.
And that way it gives the opportunity for both parties to have ample conversation and figure it out in a civil suit with the courts.
Okay, any further discussion? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Soto.
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Hi.
Councilmember Cordero.
No.
Madam Mayor Patino.
No. Okay,
Now we have a conundrum.
Well, I'm
Okay.
assuming it comes back.
Mr. Watson? So,
Again, without a fifth vote,
Yeah.
then it would have to be brought back at the next meeting as old business and renewed at that point.
okay,
Because obviously there is a split opinion.
when does the Planning Commission meet next? Okay. Okay, that was just a question. Okay. it'll be carried to the next meeting, and then we'll have the,
So it's kind of postponed.
Yeah, it's postponed. They can still work it out within 2 weeks.
I would hope that they can. I would hope that they, that would be great.
I don't know, I think that's, the conversation would have been different between them if there wasn't for that
Condition.
part, in that condition. So I think that's, there's this, we're just making it a little more complicated what it can be for two businesses to deal with a civil matter, so.
It's definitely an overreach of government.
I think they were asked to do this at the planning commission level already, and and that's why it came to us.
No, the planning commission put in place the condition.
Yeah, I know, but I think that it was already, they had already asked them to discuss it at the planning commission level. So anyway, okay. Next item will be a report by city manager. Mr. Stillwell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So the next meeting of the City Council is October 4th. We have a number of items. We have a presentation from the Chamber in their annual report, a presentation from A.T. Still Medical School, from their new dean, Eric Sowers, the first reading of a social host ordinance, and an appeal of the Caring Hands Pet Clinic sign.
We don't want to hear any more appeals, Mr.
And
Stillwell.
that concludes
Okay.
my report.
Council members, Ms. Soto, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I went to League of Cities with you, Councilmember Cordero, Councilmember Escobedo, some members of city staff. We learned a lot. We learned about surplus land. We learned about how cities can stop failing their youth. We learned lots of great stuff, and also how not to get in trouble.
Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our last meeting was August 16. Is that, yeah. So, yeah, right? Yeah, okay, so on the 17th, I participated in the Day of Hope. We saw a bunch of newspapers, and it was a great event, and it was great to see a lot of support from the community. And then on September 1st, I attended the Santa Maria Valley Chamber 2022 Annual Awards Gala at the memorial, and then I attend the League of California Cities annual conference. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cordero?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 17th, I did the Ben Hayes Show. On the 24th, I attended a Communify board meeting by Zoom. I, like Mr. Escobedo, attended the awards meeting, the awards ceremony that was very well done, I might add, by the Chamber. And that's the ceremony that they were talking about when we redid the street, or named the street. And on the 7th, 8th, and 9th, I was at the Cal League of Cities, like Councilwoman Gloria Soto said. And she's right, there was a lot of interesting things there. The surplus land. I attended some issues with the Brown Act. It was just very interesting. It's always interesting to listen to what they have to say. The surplus land matter was very interesting and applicable to what we're working with right now a little bit, right across the street here. I think, other than saying that I think it is a worthwhile situation to go to these meetings down at Cal Cities, it was just a lot of good, positive learning. And that's it.
Thank you. Yes?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Just before I almost forget, just wanted, one of my constituents reached out to me and it was requesting to honor the National Fish Amnesty Day, which it's on the fourth Saturday of September. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it on as a proclamation because it was during the week when we already had posted the agenda. And this, she's asked to remind people that animals should be respected and not killed for fun. And rather than throwing, it was an invitation as well to trash fishing. It's an activity suitable for everybody to removing trash from the ocean, from the river. So I think that's a really interesting activity that we can definitely invite everybody to practice. Thank you.
Thank you. August 16th, I did the Ben Hayes show, and then I had my mayor's teen council meeting. I had about 30 kids at Pioneer High School and about 21 at Santa Maria to start the year. So it's a real enthusiastic group. Pioneer, it's mixed boys and girls. Santa Maria High, there was one guy in that, so he's the lucky guy. August 7th, I did the Marion Foundation Day of Hope, selling the newspapers. On the 18th, I had the SBCAG monthly board meeting and the APCD board meeting in the afternoon. And then August 23rd, it was a special APCD board meeting and Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley Coalition, and did the ribbon cutting at Roscoe's Kitchen, which is right across the street here. The 24th, I attended a meeting on the business crimes and the prosecution, and attended the Marion Foundation Board of Directors meeting. On August 25th, I did the Dignity Moves tour, and I did back to school night at Santa Maria High School, where there were a lot of kids and a lot of parents in attendance. On the September 1st, did the Santa Maria Valley Chamber Annual Awards Dinner, which I think has probably been the nicest gala that we've had. It was really, really nice.
Very well done.
September 2nd, did the ribbon cutting at Juice It Up, which is a new business here in town, and did the Partners Board meeting. September 2nd, did Ben Hayes. On the 7th, went to the annual California Cities League meeting conference. On the September 12th, met with local businesses and the homeless meeting. And on the 13th, we did the Santa Maria PD welcome and the badge pinning ceremony.
Yes.
On September 14th, I attended the North County Subregional Committee, had a meeting about the social host ordinance, and A.T. Still University reception. And on the 15th, SBCAG monthly board meeting, APCD board meeting. And I usually do the coastal cleanup day, and I didn't do it this year. It sort of caught me off guard, but I did attend the succulent exchange over at the library, which was really in attendance. And on the 18th, I was asked to do El Grito over here across the street for the Fiestas Patrias. And then did a teen council meeting and did a meeting with some residents at Bradley Square. And I think that is it. I was very pleased to see Miss Blau here tonight, and that NatFast painting that we now have. And I can think of a nice place to hang it in our new offices. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is
Madam Mayor,
adjourned.
can I say one more thing, please?
Sure.
And that is, I think just a mention of the passing of Queen Elizabeth. I think that she was special on the world stage, and just to say that we've mentioned her passing.
Thank you. And I can't ungavel that, but thank you, Mr. Cordero.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.
Well, good. I hope so. I hope so.